Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Hello, listeners. Welcome to Business Innovators Radio. This is your host, Constant Taylor. Today, we have a very special guest on the show, and they're going to share some very powerful information with us. So, if you're looking to increase your personal and professional effectiveness in the areas of fitness, then you have come to the right place. Our special guest today is Debra Atkinson. Debra has been speaking professionally for 15 years. The content that she primarily speaks on is fitness for productivity. Debra speaks nationally and internationally and is based out of Boulder, Colorado. Debra's latest book will be released soon, and it's called The 50 Fitness Formula for Women. Eat more, exercise less, heal hormones, and boost energy naturally for whole you wellness. Debra, that's quite a bio and quite a mouthful. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and you did a wonderful job in one breath getting that whole title out.
Thank you. Well, the 100 times that I practiced before the show kind of helped out there. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Absolutely great. Yep.
Excellent. You know, I can feel your, even as we were talking before the show, I can just feel your energy, and you're one of those people that it's kind of like you want to connect with and learn more about. So what I'd like to do is kick off the show by asking you to tell us about your speaking business and the types of groups you speak to and the content that you cover with them.
You bet. The biggest passion, my audience, my sweet spot is that woman who's in business. And the title of the book, The After 50 Fitness Formula, kind of gives it away. But it's also those women headed there. Has a lot to do with energy, with hormones, with busyness, and the desire to be productive. And yet is a woman who is busy and juggling home. It's the true sandwich generation, younger kids, younger generations at home who either still are under the roof or still are under the credit card, if you will, and older parents, the older generation that are still catching them. So these women are, in the peak of their careers, looking to really contribute wisdom and leverage the last 20, 30 or more years of their career, and yet are running short on energy and the ability to burn the candle at both ends. So that's my sweet spot. They tend to be in the healthcare industry.
Okay. Not
alone, but healthcare is one place where we're givers, we service, we take care of others, and because that's happening also at home, it leaves a woman short-handed and at a loss for how do I take care of me while I'm, dealing with everything else. And I'm a get it done gal. You can count on me. I'm dependable, responsible, and you don't have to worry about it getting done. But that's the woman who needs to put together a productivity plan of her own that works.
Okay, excellent. So how do you go about devising, developing, strategizing, putting together a strategic plan? Is it a collaboration between you and the person? How does that work?
Definitely a collaboration, but the first place we start is humor. We have to see the humor in the very stressful and potentially dramatic experience that's happening right now. So when I can connect and poke fun at myself because I'm in those shoes. The After 50 Fitness Formula is not by accident. I've celebrated that birthday, and so having been through it, having gone through a quote-unquote midlife crisis, I can talk about it. And it's much better if I talk about my own than I talk about somebody else's.
Right.
And experience has told me that.
So do you help them out I don't know if I want to say psychologically, but do you help them out with the mental aspect and challenge of hitting 50 and getting beyond that?
Yes. The short answer is yes.
Okay.
It's not where we start. People reach out, women, especially in positions of power and authority, who serve and give, seek tangible solutions. So we seek exercise. We seek what nutritional strategy, just tell me what to eat and I'll eat it. I hear that a lot. We reach for those things that we can control because there are too many other things in our lives that we can't. And this particular woman is someone who does that, used to being in control, and now suddenly the rules have changed, and what we used to do doesn't work. And we look down and we say, where'd that come from? That wasn't here yesterday. And that could be true of, the smile lines around the eyes, or it can be true of the tire that's accumulating in the mid waistline. But what we end up doing is figuring out that there is a psychological tie, that there's a reason why we're getting here. And the intangible piece, common denominator, is stress.
So then how do you, in terms of specific strategies for, step 1, step 2, step 3, how do you go about, once you've identified the issue, they've hit 50, they're working 70 hours a week, how do you go about a stress alleviation program for them?
Great question. So stress alleviation is our old school of thought, and that's exactly where we all go. We think, based on our training in our first 30 years or more, so if we're talking about a 50-year-old woman, it's her first 30 years of her adult life, she was told, reduce stress. Doctor's orders, I want you to eliminate stress, get rid of some stress. And yet there's no key to unlock that door. There's no GPS. Siri is not telling you which way to turn or how to do it. So that is still elusive. What we know now, some great authors coming out with new books based on new research. What we know now is that it's not the stress that kills us. It's the way we think about stress. Those type A's, who we used to think, they're going to die, they're going to have the heart attack first. What we know now is they're more resilient than the rest of us. They're bring it on. Stress is part of my life experience. I'm going to have some. Let's go. It's going to actually make me stronger for the next thing. And it ends up being a real positive. And here's the most recent research that deals with stress, and the difference between the way we think about it is the key. Groups of people were asked, how much on a scale from, say, 1 to 10, and this is a for instance, so this is not a verbatim, this is how the study was done.
Okay.
But if I said to you, scale from 1 to 10, where's your stress level? And you say 10. And 10 other people in the room also say 10. And then we say, how do you feel about that stress? Those people who think it's bad, this is really bad, this is going to be bad for my health, tend to die sooner than those who say, well, I've got a heart rate, I'm going to have stress, I'll get through this, or this is work, this is not tragic, this is not family, this is doable. Those people live longer.
Wow. Debra, what you are saying makes perfect sense, and I'll tell you why. There's the phenomena going on right now for the last couple of years where the bully syndrome, where everyone is trying to protect their children from bullies. And I remember growing up, and I remember the bullies that were in my life, and now I am so grateful for them because of the stress that I went through, and the challenges that I had to overcome with them actually made me stronger and able to deal with the bullies that are now adults and that are in different areas of corporate America and in everyday life. So I'd like to know what you think about that, but that's a thought that I've articulated in my own head.
I believe it. You had to learn at a really young age what I think leaders in business end up coming to, even if they would start with it. I think we wisen up in our 20 and 30 years of experience and realize we're not going to control the situation, that it's not just about getting from A to B to C, but it's in managing the people that we have around us. You at a very young age, because you were bullied, learned how to respond or react. You have either choice to different personalities and what was behind their motivations, probably. And that's the same thing that happens when we're in control at work, is when we learn that this is how I make my decisions. This is the way I respond typically to these types of things. When people move too slowly, how do I respond or react to that? Do I think that during the meeting people are talking about mundane things and things that are a waste of time, while someone else is feeling they're not getting to express themselves enough? So if we understand there are, 5 people around the table who are responding and reacting differently, that's a big part of our stress at work syndrome, that even though we seem to be getting a long ways away from fitness, if we can talk fitness collectively as not just exercise and nutrition as it's traditionally thought about, but fitness of your brain and of your mind and of your heart, your spirit, we know we can't separate those any longer. We can't take you and make you physically fit without making you also more emotionally fit and resilient. And likewise, when we work on the emotional and the psychological and the social parts of you, we make you better able to free things up so that you can exercise and give yourself more energy to deposit in that pot.
Interesting. Very interesting. Now, you mentioned humor as a strategy for combating stress and improving health. How specifically do you integrate humor into your process?
Most times when I'm speaking, I'll start with a story that's about me. So I'm poking fun at me, allowing people to live vicariously, maybe through me, to feel that safe place where they can laugh at themselves and say, yes, that is so me. I get that. But it's me, and so it's very safe because I can poke fun at me. Then it makes it easier for you to laugh because I'm laughing.
Right.
That's the easiest place for connection, and it's a wonderful place to break the ice because I can point out very unrealistic, limiting belief kind of things that I've got that can sound ridiculous and absurd. As long as I say them about myself, it makes someone else able to realize, oh my gosh, I think that too.
Interesting. Now, for the last segment, I'd like for you to talk about the After 50 fitness formula and the key principles in there and why they would want to go out and get this book.
Absolutely. Well, number one, the After 50 fitness formula. Why is that? Why are we talking about that? So don't I need it when I'm 40? Don't I need it when I'm 30 or 20? 50 is a pivotal year because it happens potentially at 45 or it might happen at 53 or 55. But any time of hormonal change in a female's life, they have, we've gotten the gift that continues to give over and over, starting with teenage years. Hopefully, if we make it to that point, young girls are reaching that menses a lot earlier than they ever used to. But potentially every month for that entire cycle of childbearing years. And during pregnancies, and then the last time is going through menopause. They've got hormonal shifts going on. For some women, it's just, no big deal, and they kind of walk through the door and they're on the other side. For other women, it's drastically different. But for any of them, there's still a potential. There's a shift in weight, in the way they carry it. There's a shift in the way they feel. When a woman isn't any longer of childbearing years, even if she didn't want to bear a child, we like to have the choice, right? It's why we pack so many shoes.
Right.
We want to know that we can do that. And so it changes things, and it changes the way you think about yourself potentially. So there's a lot of change, and that's why it's the after 50. That's the biggest piece. So women who are 60 and 65 and 70 still will tune into, there's a fitness section. We talk about exercise, but I minimize that part. When a woman is going through challenges, it's like, let's talk spinach, okay?
Okay.
So when we're thinking about healthy things to eat, we're thinking about nutrient-dense foods. Spinach is one of the most nutrient-dense foods on earth. But when you're sick, if you have the flu, for someone to recommend spinach or bring that to you while you're in bed is probably not going to go over well. That is not the thing that you need when you're sick. So when we talk hormones, if you can use that analogy that they're out of balance, and we hear that a little too often, females do, and yet we don't get any answers to that either. What does that mean? How do I put them back in balance? The answer to that is elusive. But that's what we're trying to do. Right now, if you're gaining weight, if you have lethargy, if you can't sleep, we don't want to assume that that's normal. That's not a normal part of aging, and there are things that we can do. There are ways we can change exercise to help that. There are ways we can change nutrition to help that. And they're different ways of exercising if your hormones are sick than if they were well. So your exercise is not the same going through those changes as it was when you were apparently healthy in all ways, including your hormones in balance. So we focus on less exercise, just of the right kind. So we're not disrupting cortisol, that stress hormone, further, but we're calming it down back where it needs to be. And that's usually the last thing a woman reaches for is rest and recovery, but it's often the first thing she needs.
Awesome. Well, the information that you provide and the value of what you're doing is immeasurable. I've been into health and fitness since 2003 when I became a vegetarian, and try to eat natural and holistic foods whenever I can. I know that the segment that you are primarily helping is women, but I do appreciate the value that you bring to the table as well. And this has been a true treat for me to talk to you and absorb the information that you have provided. Now, in closing, I would like to ask, how can people learn more about you? And if they'd like to get in touch with you or to speak to you, how can they do that, Debra?
Great question. You can reach me at www.voiceforfitness.com.
Okay, great. And then is there an email address that they could reach you or your staff?
There certainly is, and you can reach me directly at Debra, Debra, at voiceforfitness.com. And I try to respond to all things that come to that email address personally. So often someone else will need to follow up for second step, but I like to touch base.
That is awesome. Well, Debra, this has been a true treat for me, and I'm sure for the rest of the listeners as well. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing the valuable information that you shared with our listeners.
You are welcome. Thank you for having me today.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.